please kill the Pulse, P-U-L-S-E,
Okay.
in Orlando. And he's shooting, and everybody is bleeding everywhere.
Where was the concentration of people who didn't make it?
The main dance floor was the greatest concentration of dead bodies. He did most of his killing within the first 2 minutes. The video and the audio that I've heard, multiple gunshots, multiple magazine changes, all within the first minute or two.
Do you have any sense of how many rounds he fired?
Hundreds of rounds. I don't know the exact count.
The first Orlando police officers arrived on scene while the gunman was still shooting. Sergeant Ira Morris and his team entering through the open patio and onto the dance floor.
We were stating things like, if anyone can hear us, just raise your hand. Some of the folks that were, of course they were obviously deceased, but they were still trying to hold on to each other to protect each other.
On the opposite side, near the main door, Officer James Highland was preparing to make entry with a second team.
Once I was up to the south doors, a female came out and she just dropped to the ground. So while there was gunfire still going on, I tapped one of the officers in front of me. I said, hey, give me some cover. I went and grabbed the female.
Shattering a picture window, Highland and SWAT officer Ben Chisari moved quickly towards the back of the club.
We got 5 or 6 other officers with us, and we made entry into the club where the gunfire was coming from. We had an idea that the gunman was in the bathroom. We just didn't know where at the time, so we held our positions.
Is it fair to say that you had your firearm up and ready?
Absolutely.
The whole time?
The whole time.
The shooter briefly appears. Police fire, but miss. The gunman is barricaded with hostages.
And the shooter was sort of in the bathroom, and they were holding cover on him, which allowed me and a bunch of officers to go in there and just start extracting the wounded that was in there.
Ambulances were blocks away outside the safety perimeter.
I remember shouting, use my truck, get him out of here. And then another officer came and he actually jumped in the driver's seat of my truck. So people that we were pulling out, they would take them from behind the cars that I pulled them, and then they'd load them on the back of the truck, and then they'd take them down to the hospital down the street.
15 trips in all, as frantic phone calls come steadily from inside the nightclub.
Hurry up, he's loading up, hurry up.
Caller's advising he's reloading in the bathroom.
30 minutes into the attack, the self-proclaimed ISIS gunman exchanges 3 phone calls with police.
There's some vehicles outside that have some bombs, just to let you know. Your people are going to get it, and I'm going to ignite it if they try to do anything stupid.
A new threat as a bomb dog identifies the scent of explosives in the gunman's car. Dozens of police and deputies work quickly to rescue survivors hiding throughout the club. Some 24 hostages remain trapped in the south bathroom. And in the north, the gunman is pointing his assault rifle towards the door, ready for police. It is more than 2 hours into the standoff.
Why isn't anyone coming to get us in the bathroom? There's 2 people in here that are about to die. There's 4 already dead. Someone needs to come in here now.
If our officers who were feet away had heard him start shooting, they obviously would have went right through that bathroom door and engaged him.
A text comes through at about 4:30 saying he's going to put suicide vests on us and blow the club up. That must have accelerated things pretty significantly.
It did, and negotiations had stopped and he wasn't answering our phone call.
It was relayed to us while we were in there that he had explosives and that he was going to blow the club up if we didn't back out. No one backed out.
My SWAT team commander tells me what the plan is. I say, get ready for an explosive breach. He comes back and says, they're ready.
It went off, hit the lights, and kind of the dust settled, and the wall was still there.
SWAT officer Robert Woodyard aims his armored vehicle with a battering ram at the rear wall.
I changed it to 4-wheel drive, just in case, and just drove at the hole that was supposed to be breached.
But it was the hallway. The hostages are feet away, so he rams a second hole.
I remember backing out and just seeing hands, just immediately. A couple of the guys on the ground grabbed a handheld ram, and they started to make the holes bigger, and once it got big enough, people started coming out.
The officers did start hearing shots coming from the north bathroom, and we learned later from the survivors that that was the shooter actually shooting out at the officers. So that's when our officers, again, thinking on the fly, threw some diversionary devices in there, flashbangs, made some loud noise and some bright light. And somewhere during that time period, that's when the shooter came out of the big hole that was made in the hallway and immediately began firing our officers. Several other officers also returned fire, killing him right there.
The standoff is over 3 hours and 15 minutes after it began. 49 people are dead, 53 injured, with 101 people rescued from inside the club by dozens of police and sheriff's deputies.
Why not launch that rescue operation sooner?
Going in that doorway within the first few minutes basically would have been a suicide mission for the officers, but also, like I said, more importantly, I believe many hostages would have lost their lives at that moment, either from the gunman or from friendly fire from our officers, if we had gone in right away through that bathroom.
The survivors were interviewed that same day. Only then did Chief Mina learn the gunman had been waiting to ambush his SWAT team.
I'm very, very proud of the way the Orlando Police Department responded.
Deborah Thayrick, CNN, Orlando, Florida.